Hey, welcome to another episode of the Decoding Cross-Border Ecommerce podcast. Aaron, you're on the wrong side of the table today.
I know. I'm not sure how comfortable I am just sitting right next to you instead of across the table from you, but I'm going to have to get used to it.
Hey, I'm excited for our guest. So James Edge, CEO of Landmark, is joining us today. Thanks for being here, James.
No, pleasure. Thanks for having me, and nice hat.
Yes. I had a light bulb moment last night. I'm like, I think I have a Landmark hat. And sure enough, I was at a golf tournament. I've got this one, and I wore my red shirt to kind of go with it. Do I look good?
No, you look good.
I'd say the cipher behind you and that hat you've got in front of you looks fantastic as well.
Yeah, we got a lot of ciphers sitting around here.
Yes, we do.
Well, cool. I was going to get into the cipher, but that's a whole nother thing. James, you came in last night. We were able to go to dinner with some views of the city. We're here in St. George, Utah. For those that don't know, that listen to the podcast, and what are your impressions of the place?
No, it's beautiful. I said on our hike this morning, it's the type of place that makes anyone a good photographer, right?
Yeah.
Just the colors and the sunshine rising over the red cliffs. So yeah, I don't feel like I've done any work today, but I feel very relaxed. So
it's early though, right? Because you got to get out, beat the heat. So we got out early, and was able to get up to Snow Canyon, which is, 10, 15 minutes away. And feel like you're in a whole nother planet for, in the middle of nowhere for 15. Well, sorry, we're out there for 45 minutes, maybe an hour. But it's an amazing place.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I can see why you guys like it. And I can see why people would want to come here and work. For sure.
Well, we record this in a hangar. So this used to be a FedEx hangar, and it was completely abandoned. It's up on top of an old airport, there's still pretty much nothing up here. So we're right at the edge of a cliff, and it was like landing an aircraft carrier, on an aircraft carrier when it used to be an airport. But the views are insane. So we're right at the edge. We just have a view of the entire city, and so we have this, and then we have some parks that we've built around this hangar, which is all pretty fitting, right, for a company that helps enable global trade.
Indeed,
containers and a hangar. Pretty cool.
Yes. Lucky to call this home. Also excited to have you here visiting us. You drove up from California, right?
I did. I drove from LA. I hadn't done that drive for a long time. I really enjoyed it. Always enjoy it. Always speed through Vegas and think, don't stop. So I was happy to get to St. George.
And then I told him after he got here, I said, we have a direct flight to LA now out of St. George, but yeah.
And now you've told everyone in Belgium, right? Because I was like, look, I'm out of action. The only way to get there is to drive,
Okay. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I actually love a good drive. So, and you said you have a Tesla, so you have to charge along the way.
There's
so
a bit of charging
how is
along
that
the way.
planning that drive? Because there's a lot of nothing between here and LA.
It's technology. It does it all for you. And it's good for me because in the past I would just do the whole thing in one without stopping, and you shouldn't do that. So now I have to stop, have a little walk around, admire the desert views.
Fantastic.
Well, hey, we have a lot of history with Landmark. Aaron, even myself in some ways. And so we're excited to hear about, kind of your journey with Landmark. And then we want to talk today, I think, about some of the unique ways that you might be approaching the market in this environment that we have, right? Which is fluctuating tariffs, helping brands expand globally. 16 years ago, actually it's more than that. About 20 years ago, I used to, which we were talking about last night, I worked at DHL, and at DHL Global Mail was Christy Patterson, who is still at Landmark. She's been there over a decade, I think.
Yep.
And so I used to do ride-alongs. That's kind of where I kind of got my introduction into logistics and the understanding of the space. And then you had your own experience with Landmark.
Before I came to Zonos, I was at Rocky Mountain ATV, big e-commerce retailer here out of Utah, and worked with Brad as my sales rep, and we shipped with Landmark for years, and they still do. Landmark, the one thing I've noticed, people stay. You must have a great culture going on there, because everyone I knew years ago, they're all still there today.
No, I appreciate you saying it. And I was just thinking that through your introduction, you're talking about Brad, Christy. We could talk about Scott, Ryan, Todd, a long list. And that's the joy for me. So the business has changed a lot. We've grown a lot. My job's changed and evolved in different ways, but I still get to work with the same great people that I met in, I guess, 2013 when I first joined.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your history and what kind of, your background and what led you to Landmark.
Yeah, no, sure. It's got a British element and then what I would say is a very American and entrepreneurial element to it. So I spent 10 years at Royal Mail in the UK. And towards the end of that 10 years, I ended up on a project in North America. And the goal was to find ways we could grow volume from North America into the UK. It's pretty specific, actually. And in true kind of big company way, we gave it a good go. We analyzed it. But in the end, we decided not to do it. And so there I was in the US, slightly at a loose end. And but through the course of this project with Royal Mail, I'd met some cool people. And through those cool people, I found my way to Landmark Global. And the way it becomes an American story is I worked at Royal Mail in commercial roles. Before that, I studied medieval history at university, right? Career fast track.
Wow.
And then when I got to Landmark, and our founder, Dave Mays, said, he didn't say, hey, well done in the commercial and that history degree sounds interesting. He said, you should run technology. And that's the sort of thing that can only happen in America.
Yes.
And there were reasons behind it. And I think it's turned out all right, and we grew a technology team and we built some cool products. And then I ended up in different CEO roles. But I always think back to that kind of origin for me, that, that opportunity right at the beginning to do something that I was possibly qualified for. Couldn't have got here without that. So I owe a lot to Landmark as well.
That's amazing. So, I mean, one of the early hires, and then Landmark was acquired by bpost.
Indeed. Yeah.
And so now you've taken over a large division of revenue for publicly traded company bpost.
Yeah, no, that's right. So now we're I think we're in 25 locations, 4 continents. All of this is available publicly, but the revenue is over 600 million euros.
Yeah.
And we focus, we grew up US to Canada. That's how definitely everyone in North America knows Landmark Global. But now we've got big lanes from China into Europe, European lanes, Australia, US outbound to other places. We've come a long way in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I remember early on, when I was at DHL UPS hearing about Landmark, and then at conferences, and you guys just grew like crazy, right? Like it was a really cool story, what you did into Canada. So quite impressive. How have things changed over the years for you, right?
Yeah,
the market, competition, and how have you guys kind of adapted?
No, indeed. It was different at the beginning. We went in with a pretty simple sales pitch, which was you can give we'd go to a brand and they would have the option at the time. They could give their customer in Canada a postal solution, relatively inexpensive, took a little while, sometimes a very unpleasant surprise at the door when you have to pay the duties and taxes, as you guys very well know. Or you could go with FedEx Express. It would arrive the next day or 2 days later, but it was really expensive. And we offered that kind of niche in the middle. And that was the whole sales proposition. And it wasn't easy to sell. There was a lot of education involved. But in the early days, it was about that education and about showing how we could do it. And maybe, we were probably 5 to 7 days. It all worked out well. We handled the duties and taxes, etc. Today, there's a lot more competition. There's a lot of people that can do similar stuff to us. And as you very well know, there's a big technology component and digital element that makes what we do a lot easier. So we've had to become much better. So, our 5 to 7 days is less than 3 days right now.
That's amazing.
And the tracking is, the tracking then was good. The tracking now, it's the standard. It has to be perfect.
And there's even instances where you guys are delivering in one day, right? Depending on the lane, and you're even doing some of your own deliveries, correct?
We are, yeah. In, I think it was 2017, we made an acquisition in Canada, Apple Express. And over time, we've turned what was a solely B2B company into an arm that has B2C deliveries. And yeah, Apple Express do a large majority of our deliveries in Canada. We still have the multi-carrier network. That's still the key because different parcel sizes, different options, different geographies, dealing with strikes and things like that. So we need a variety of carriers, but it's cool to have our own for sure.
Yeah, no, that's how okay. So Canada is kind of it's where you started. You've gotten the service just humming to Canada. Obviously, we have a lot of shared customers that are using Landmark and shipping into Canada. Even Aaron's old shop is still using Landmark and us, right?
No,
so,
great.
What about some of the other markets, and how have you guys been positioning yourself to grow? And how did that happen? Because it started with Canada, and then what has that turned into over time?
Yeah, a little bit. There's some different fun elements to the story, I guess. So there was a little bit of acquisition just as Landmark Global. So I mentioned Apple. We also purchased a company in Australia called FDM. So Australia is a really important market for our US brands.
And what was FDM?
FDM fulfillment company, basically.
Okay.
So, and we'll come on to fulfillment, but essentially the story would be the US brands are having so much success sending single parcels to Australia that ultimately they want an in-country solution.
Got it.
And so for us, it was important in our key markets, Australia, Canada, Europe, to have those in-country solutions.
Interesting. So this would be, I assume, larger companies that have enough volume in Australia that they eventually are now fulfilling domestically within Australia, and is that the main service they're using you for?
Definitely. It began as a volume play. It gets more interesting today. There's other elements, but yeah, kind of a volume play. And you have, if as a retailer or direct to consumer brand, you build up a big Australian base. People want stuff a little bit quicker as well, right? And particularly with Australia, it's a long way away.
Yes, it is.
So there's an element to in-country in Australia that makes a lot of sense for a lot of brands.
Okay, so Australia, which I want to dive more into the in-country fulfillment in a minute, but because it sounds like that's available in more than Australia, and then Europe as well, right?
Yeah, indeed. And this is maybe a little bit of the interesting corporate story. So we have a pretty cool parent company, which is bpost. And bpost origins are the post office in Belgium. But bpost has been publicly traded for years, very international outlook. And when they acquired Landmark Global, one of the reasons for doing so was to take the brand and to even take the management team global, and to use that team and that brand to manage existing businesses they have. So we now have large trade lanes in various places, but China into Belgium, China into other countries in Europe, intra-Europe, particularly, let's say, from France or from Spain. We're not everywhere. We're not experts everywhere, but we're a significant regional player and pretty strong in those regions that we focus on.
Would you kind of divide up? So managing a team like that, they're selling very different in some ways services, right? Like if you're in Europe versus the US team, do you collab? Does the sales team collaborate a lot in these different regions, or is it more like, hey, we're all part of the same entity, but we really have two very different go-to-market?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to give you a very professional answer. I'm also chuckling to myself, right? Because if my team were listening, they'd be like, okay, James, how are you going to answer this one? And the truth is, which is both the truth and the professional answer, in some places it makes a ton of sense and there's a ton of collaboration. So for example, we built the US to Canada lane. We introduced Apple. I mean, that's all about collaboration and teamwork, right? A few years later, Chinese volumes started to grow into Canada. And we introduced the Europe and the Asia team into Apple and vice versa.
Interesting.
So now there's really close team working. It's on a kind of lane basis, right? And also strategically, of course, we all get together and think where next. But in the sales sense, it kind of depends.
Where things intersect is where you start needing to collaborate.
Well said.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like you appreciate this. It's really different cultures. Sales culture in Europe and sales culture in the United States is really different. So we have to recognize that too.
The U.S. to Europe, are you doing a fair amount of that then?
Yeah, we are. We do a fair amount of U.S. to Europe. I would say that's a lane that we need to boost.
Yeah.
I would say that when it comes to Canada, I can say, hey, market leader. When it's U.S. to Europe, we're good, but we don't have the scale of some of our competitors, and it's definitely.
But you have a the in Europe, you have the final mile. You have everything you need in Europe too. I mean, that's where the company's at. So,
And now you sound like my boss.
Yeah.
We got everything. So
he called me before this and said, "Will you tell him we got to boost some volume into our region?"
Which I think that's an interesting dynamic. We kind of glossed over it, but we talk about bpost.
Yeah,
we're talking about the Belgian post here, right? Yeah. And I think a lot of people, especially here in America, I think post office, I think government, right?
Yeah,
but that's not actually the case. Many of these posts around the world operate as a private, for-profit business.
Indeed.
And it's interesting when you talk about bpost being publicly traded that they're growing their business, and it's not just delivering packages in Belgium at all, right? So
it's true.
What does that bpost group look like as a whole?
Yeah, it's a cool group because there's definitely challenges. We could say bpost, we could say Royal Mail, we could say DHL or La Poste. It's a challenge when you need to modernize and digitize a post office, right? That's one particular challenge. But what bpost has done, and what some but not all of the others have done, is recognize that they need to be a global logistics player, right? Postal volumes are shrinking. We're going to have less and less profit in our home market. So how do we expand into other verticals and into other countries? And so the way that bpost is now set up, basically 3 business units. One focuses on Belgium, which is some legacy stuff, but some really cool new stuff like lockers, for example. Mm-hmm. Second business unit, 3PL, which is mainly focused on different types of fulfillment as the majority of the business, with transport as well. And then cross-border, and I always say with cross-border, we're all about opening the world, right? So it's how can we take brands to other places? It's mainly transport and single packages, but there's an element of fulfillment in there too. And so those 3 ways is that's how bpost is organized.
Okay, now to the fulfillment. As a brand or I'm expanding, at what point does it make sense for me to start looking at in-country fulfillment? Because we hear it all the time, right? And especially because I could, correct if I'm wrong, right? But one of the big benefits of doing in-country fulfillment is you can bring your goods in at wholesale value.
Yeah. You're
paying tariffs on the wholesale. And then you're selling at retail. Of course, taxes and everything will be on the retail price.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of decision to be made, right? How many SKUs do I have? What's my cost to do this, right? There's warehousing costs.
Yep.
And inventory, management. So yeah, when Landmark is in front of a customer and talking about, here's how we help you today, or as you grow, like what does that conversation sound like with your customers?
I think you've described it well, how the conversation begins. Let me do the 2 easy ones, and then we'll meet in the middle on where it gets a little bit, should we or shouldn't we? So I think the easy ones, maybe going back to that Australia example, you've got a ton of volume down in Australia, and your local customers are crying out for in-country fulfillment. Tens of thousands of orders, long distance between continents, not inexpensive to fly a package down there, right? So that's a good and extreme example that illustrates the point. There's a second one that comes in that's really come in the last few months. So, and I could use a live client example. So we have a client who has large volumes in the US, growing volumes in Canada, like significantly growing, that they fulfill or want to fulfill from the US. The product's made in China. And so as it comes into the US, it's getting hit with the 55%, right? And you can correct me if we're at 50. Every day seems a little bit.
I don't know.
I haven't checked my
Let me
Twitter
jump on True Social,
morning.
see what it is today.
I think we're at 55. Now, that same brand started having this conversation with us. What could we do? And we said, well, actually, if you can, and we can help you get your goods into Canada, you avoid that 55%, right? So I gave you Australia. This is the no-brainer Canadian example. There's a way to avoid a 55% tariff on something that's retailing at, I don't know, $150, $200, then it makes a lot of sense. Where it gets more complicated is the middle. And so the conversations we have with our clients are around how much volume do you have? What are the taxes and duties on each order? And then what's the sales price? Because it's just what you said, Clint. If you can essentially tax and duty the cost of goods instead of the retail price, there's an obvious savings. But with that comes the complexity of basically maybe today you just have one warehouse that everything comes out of. It might be a Landmark warehouse. It might be your own. At the very least, you've now got a second node, right? So you have to kind of work through those complexities as well.
I would think the other thing, like when you use the Australia example, they have $1,000 duty de minimis. Yep. So for majority of e-commerce, I can ship there duty free, but if I have to inventory stuff there, I'm going to be paying duty on those goods that are going to be there. But how does that cost relate to the extra shipping costs and transit times? And so there's a whole math equation that has to go in, right? Yeah. And then of course all the cost of whatever it takes to run a business and have an entity down there, whatever's required that way. So you got to put it all into your little computer and calculate it all out.
Yeah. And in Canada, much lower tax and duty threshold, right? So it's closer, but then maybe that comes to play more easily. So there's a lot of elements.
Well, yeah, and then you talk about the number of SKUs too. I think operationally, I come from a background of hundreds of thousands of SKUs that could be sold. Trying to put that in another warehouse doesn't make sense. But maybe top movers, right, for that market or something like that. Do you see a lot of people doing some analysis on only putting a limited set of SKUs in country and holding some back in the, wherever their home office is?
Yeah, the more sophisticated they get, definitely. And we have multiple clients who do that. The vast majority or the high moving SKUs will definitely be in country in those examples, but there'll certainly be others that ship from the US. And you'll see it as a consumer, right? You'll order 2 or 3 things. You go, oh, that's interesting. That one's going to take 3 to 5 days, and this one's going to arrive tomorrow. There's often a reason for that.
Do you ever walk into customers where it's the opposite? They made a decision to go all in a market. Yeah. They start warehousing there, and then they realize, oh wow, this is way more work and way more cost than we thought, and then they go back to doing cross-border.
That could happen for sure. I don't think we see it a lot because if we see that, we haven't done our job properly, right? Because we're supposed to take that pain away.
Right.
Now, it can happen. Maybe they don't. Maybe the popularity of their product, maybe they only have a few SKUs and maybe their product wanes a little bit. And they might pull back for that reason because they've fallen into, we don't quite have the volume that we expected to have. So I think that's the scenario where
and I wonder if that happens too in new sales though at times, because we've talked to a few companies that have made that decision and they didn't realize, they kind of just did their own thing, right? They went and got their own warehouse. They started kind of built their own whole, had no idea how much cost it was actually going to be. Whereas using a partner like, Landmark is, acting as that 3PL in that country, helps kind of keep that cost low, the investment, and yet get the benefits of local distribution.
No, for sure. Yeah, and I should stress the angle that we come at it from, like the majority of our business is not the in-country fulfillment, but we want to make sure we're there when either the client grows or the client encounters a problem like the 55% tax.
Right.
We want to be able to solve it. And being part of this significant group helps with that too.
Yeah,
because we do have our own space, but we also, let's take Europe as an example. There, we very much play on the space of the other bpost group companies. So it's something that we can do. We know how to do it. We know which clients to help and when, and so it's kind of opportunistic in that way for both the client and for us.
Yeah, there is one trap I've seen with some of your, and I'm curious to see if you've seen the same thing, where sometimes it's like a badge of success that someone inside the company has a job. Like, if I can figure out this complicated puzzle to get our product in this country, like suddenly it's going to like breed success for us, and I'm going to pat myself on the back saying I did something good. And then it turns into, oh wait, we bit off more than we can chew, and this isn't, the numbers don't add up. So you've really got to go into this with a super objective mindset, and be okay if the numbers tell you it doesn't make sense in this country yet.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's spot on. Yeah, and it's like I'll go back to my medieval history, right? Don't spread your supply chain too thin. Sometimes it's best to focus in one place and wait till you have that necessary scale.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think back to your work history, how you got to Landmark. Like you got shipped overseas for your job, right?
Yeah.
And then we kept you here.
No, I thank you though. I thank you. I mean, yeah, definitely.
So did I tell you about the job I had in Egypt, my construction job?
No, but I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah, but it turned out to be a pyramid scheme.
That's a Utah joke right there.
Yeah. I can't believe I was pulled into the setup for that one. I didn't see it coming.
What kind of stories? Do you have any like cool, funny, just amazing stories that you've experienced along the way on your journey?
Oh gosh, yeah, probably. I always think of the. You guys got me thinking about this one earlier, but I always think about my kind of landmark origin stories, right? Which preceded some of the best ones preceded me. And we're always selling our platform, Mercury, like the platform our business is built on. And the story has always been that Adam Morgan wrote the first few lines of code from the back of a tour bus. He was a guitar tech for the Plain White T's. We were trying to convince him that he needed to be a technologist. And so that's where the first few lines were written. I love stuff like that.
That was the vibe coding origins, right?
Yeah,
when it's
absolutely.
Is that code still somewhere there? Is it still used?
It will be somewhere, and it will be, Adam, forgive me, it will be criticized by our current developers. Definitely. They take great joy if they can find it.
Yes. Yeah, that's...
I'm sure they love touching it. It's probably off limits, at that point.
I love stories like that, though. I mean, even our stories, we've got some scrappy, code that was cut to accomplish a task and get things done. And, yeah, I think you look back on those times with fondness because that's what helped build the business.
For sure.
And then, the new blood that comes in to cut code, they like to throw a little shade at it. But hey, they wouldn't be here without that code, right?
No, that's right.
Oh yeah, early on, I was in sales, right, at UPS, and when I was at DHL, and I think 2 or 3 years in, I wrote our entire code for all of our billing for our customers to log in and see their billing. With JSPs and Java, which was like a super simple way for me to like hack getting a SQL query into a display, right, for people to see their. That didn't last very long after we actually got a fairly decent size of engineering team. They were like, "All right, let's move on from Clint's code," but it's fun stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It was needed at the time, as you say.
Absolutely, absolutely.
With the dynamic changing tariff environment right now, especially coming into the U.S. Is that you're not doing U.S. inbound, correct? Or is that inaccurate?
No, we do. It's not inaccurate, but we are mainly supporting customers who've already imported into the U.S. in some cases. But we also we've got streams coming in from Europe into the US. Yeah. If you want to talk about de minimis and what's going to happen,
that's next. What I was gonna. Yeah, I mean, look, the big beautiful bill says, "Hey, de minimis is going away."
Yep.
And there's rumors that it might go away in other means, but
we've already seen them attempt to get rid of it.
Back in February, right?
So I don't think we're going to wait till July of 2027.
Me either.
This is going to go away.
It's on its last leg.
Soon.
Yep.
So, how are you looking at that as a company? What are some of your plans and ways of trying to help your customers?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, it in my view, it needs to go away, right? Like it's so high.
It is crazy high.
It does give an advantage that US companies don't have shipping to other places. So that's number one. Number two, it's an opportunity, right? Like that's how we always look at it at Landmark. And I know at Zonos, you're exactly the same. Complexity, opportunity. So it's an opportunity for us to help our clients. And it's an opportunity because the US customs world and inbound world and shipping world's going to change. So we're in the process, like everyone else, of figuring that out. But we're going to use the same model we've used in the rest of the world. And I think it's going to give us a real opportunity to grow volume into the US.
So maybe a bit of that fulfillment model, like in country fulfillment, some of those kind of things could be that.
Yeah, it could be. I think the way I would see it is, I think it will allow us to help more clients, let's say in the UK, or in Europe, right? It's going to be a little bit tougher for them because there'll be a duty and tax charge that their customers have to pay. But if we can help with smoothing the process, they'll grow their volumes, and ultimately that could lead to the in-country fulfillment, later on.
What other things do you see as we kind of look out on the horizon as evolutions in the market or opportunities for you? Like, where do you see things going for cross-border?
Yeah, it's sort of everywhere, right? Like it's not many years ago, we'd been like, Southeast Asia, right? Or India. Now there's e-commerce in those places and coming out of those places. So those are, I've named two markets that are not top of our 2026-27 list, but there's so much emerging e-commerce in other parts of the world. And then there's an expectation from people wherever they are in the world that they should be able to buy a product from anywhere else in the world, right? And so that's what you're here for. It's what we're here for. So for me, it continues to be an exciting area. And I think it's a truly kind of global opportunity cross-border, which is why we all enjoy it so much.
Well, I think that's a great way to end, though. I am looking forward to our next podcast about medieval history with James.
I am 100% on board with that because I don't know much about it, so I would learn a ton from that.
And you would have the best jokes with medieval history. The amount of the Monty Pythons. You have Aaron.
That's my level of medieval history expertise is Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Is it historically accurate?
It's close enough. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely. It was definitely that much fun. For sure.
All right. Hey, thanks again for coming on. We've really appreciated it, James.
Yeah, thanks,
James.
All right, thank you.